All right, welcome everybody. Intro to Apex. My name is Leah McGowan Hare. I will be your guide through this next hour and a half. And that's our latecomer student. I am not here alone. Oh, they spelled my name wrong. It's actually W-E-N. McGowan. My Twitter handle is there. Would you like to introduce yourselves? Where'd my other helper go? Where'd she go? She bailed. Okay, go ahead.
Hey everybody, I'm Chris.
Chris, you're blocking the camera.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Or maybe he wants that shot.
Yeah.
I'm saying. I'm sorry, AC, you said you're how long?
2.5 years.
2.5. I thought you said 10.5. I'm like, what? Wow. No, not at all. I've been with Salesforce for 7 years, and up to recently, maybe 4 weeks ago, I was a master technical trainer, which is a fancy term for I taught developers how to code using Apex and Visualforce, our customers and employees as well as our admin 201 classes and things like that. 4 weeks ago, I started on an internal team called TPL, Technology, People, and Leadership, where we basically create training and enabling our Salesforce employees through learning. So I'm going to be working with creating or curating trails for our engineers that build Salesforce. So I'm now internal. They say, can we borrow you for one last time external? And I said, of course you can. So I am here today to teach you Intro to Apex. Now, by show of hands, so I can get a sense, how many people have coded in Apex before? How many people have coded in an object-oriented language before? Okay. How many people have never, ever coded? Okay, a little bit. All right, so just getting a sense. Now, I remember when I spoke to the gentleman who created these slides, his name is Peter Chittum, I said, is this Apex for non-developers or Apex for developers? And he said, this is Apex for developers. So there may be some things that are assumed as we go through these slides, but if you have questions, please do ask. Okay, so I want to make sure everybody walks away from this class with something. Okay, clearly everybody's starting at a different point, so people are going to be leaving with different things. All right, so I just want to make sure though you leave with something. All right, even if it's a sticker, I'll give you a sticker. Just leave with something. All right, so let's go. Once again, I'm Leah McGowan. You guys got that. Forward-looking statements. So you guys have seen this. They were once known as the safe harbor statements. We may speak of things that are forward-facing features. That is not for you to make decisions, purchasing decisions, or implementation decisions based off of. So basically, it gives me room to make up stuff. Go social. You'll find Salesforce on all these channels, you know, on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, as well as Google Plus Circle. What is it, Google Plus? Is it? Okay, well, you know, you can find it there, wherever that is. Let me know when you find it, so I'll look for it too. So here are some of the expectations for the class. And like I said, if you don't fit that, that's fine. You take what you need and leave the rest. That's what I always say, right? You're an experienced developer. You're curious about Apex with no experience, but have no experience. You are ready to learn something. You're going to walk away learning something. You're ready to build something too. And it's 90-minute workshop. You'll not leave here an expert. So I'm good, but I'm not that good, right? You know, it's like learning a new language. You have never spoken Spanish before. On day 1, by day 5, you're not going to be negotiating heads of state in Spanish. You'll probably be able to walk away saying, you know, yo me llamo Leah. That's for, you know, my name is Leah, and just in case I'm quite fluent in Spanish. Or, you know, something very basic in that element. In 90 minutes, you might just be able to walk away saying, yo. We'll just see what happens, but stick around for the ride. So here's some of the agenda. We're going to talk about the platform overview. We're going to talk about writing Apex classes. We will talk about accessing data using, anybody want to say that? What is that? Sako. Oh, okay. What is it? Sako. I thought I heard it. Somebody usually says Soko. Soko. And I just say, oh, okay. I just like to hear different ways people say it. Sako, which is, we'll talk about that standard object query language, and then we're going to write a trigger. Then you're going to walk away with some homework. You're like, what? I did not pay to get homework. Oh, but you did. So there's some extra credit things. Like you're going to be so jazzed about what you learned here. You're like, I can't let the learning stop. There's going to be places, and I'll point you to where you can learn more on further topics. Okay. So how will we do it? Well, how do you think we're going to do it? Trailhead, baby, trailhead. If you haven't gotten the message from the keynote, we're hitting the trails. So we are going to have a package that we're going to install in your DE org. What I'd like you to do right now is if you can write down that URL, bit.ly/tdx-conf-app. So in the Trailhead, there is a project called the Conference Management Project. We will be doing that. Now that project consists of many, many parts. One is building out the data schema and maybe customizing some page layouts and some fields and things of that nature. We're going to expedite that process. So we have a package that has those pieces done, so it will bring us directly into the Apex portion of that. Does that make sense? Okay? So I'll tell you when we need to go there, okay? Also, we will be working in a DE org. How many people have a DE org? Who does not know what a DE org is? It's okay if you don't, it's fine. Who wants to explain what is a DE org? Absolutely, I couldn't have said it better. So it's your own little playground. And does it expire?
Nope.
No.
Linger and linger and linger until you come back to it years later.
Well, anybody know they changed the rule on that?
They did.
What's the rule? Well, not 2 years, but
6 months without using it goes away.
bingo. Yeah, oh yeah, that thing, right? Right? But see, people are so jazzed working in it. Everybody's in that. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about because I live in my DE org. No, you're absolutely right. What was your name? Jen. So as Jen stated, if you don't go into your org for 6 months, you will get an email saying, hey, notice you haven't been active. We're going to get rid of this org if you don't log in. And literally all you have to do is log in, and you reactivated it. You reset the time. So, but it is, you're right. It does not expire unless you let it go inactive, okay? So, I'm sorry, who does not have a DE org? All right, so this is what I'm going to need you to do. For my peoples who do not have a DE org, you're going to create one. You want to go to this URL, and this is where my helpers can help them. If I think it's only here. Oh, no, you knew what a DE, you just didn't have a DE, right? You have a DE. No, you don't. I am now.
We do. I don't think I have access to it.
Okay, so you can, and that's the beauty of it. You can have as many as you want. Create a new one. No, that's not the DE org. So do you guys know how to get them set up on DE orgs? So they'll help you with the DE orgs. Let me make sure. Everybody else, make sure you sign in to your DE org. Okay, sign in to your DE org. Yes. It should not. I don't think so because the objects that we're going to be installing are going to be unique, and the app's going to be unique. If you feel comfortable, if you want to do a new one, I'd say do a new one. It will be tied. So if you want that badge to be reflective in your other one, then do it in the DE org that you want it reflective in. I don't know, because this is for the conference. Have you done the project on Trailhead called the conference project? Management one? Oh, so you might have to do. So when you log in to your credential, if you go to Trailhead, you log in and you use one of your DE org's credentials to log in, there's a tab that says Trails, and you can see your badges. It's what credentials do you use? No, not yet. Harbor. Not yet. There would be nice if we could merge too, because sometimes you do something here, sometimes you do something there, and you want to bring it all together. So you have a?
I think I already did this job.
Oh.
Right? Session speakers, hotels, conference app.
It is the conference app. Wait, let me see something. Did you do the Apex code with it? It sends out emails and stuff?
Yeah. Well, someone else can hold my seat.
Oh, I'm sorry. We were going to walk through the code and all of that. Are you clear on the code? It's up to you. You feel like how you can spend your time most efficiently. Because we are going to go through that code. We're going to give time to do that in the conference app, and then we'll go through the code. But I totally understand if you feel like, you know what, this is better. I've done this. Think about it. Let me know.
I did have a DE. I didn't know it was developer.
Oh, okay. Awesome. So we're good here. How we doing?
I think I have an account that I don't remember because it just.
If you are in the DE, then I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go back a slide. If you are in the DE and you're ready to go the next step before we go through the slides is to install this package. All you have to do is put this URL in, and it's going to prompt you for your login credentials. That will be the login credentials for your DE org. Okay? So put the URL in, and it will prompt you for a login. The login should be the login credentials for your DE org. And I'll explain to you what this is doing. We're basically installing a package on this URL.
That URL goes to the Trailhead management app.
It didn't?
It's not the package.
Oh, it didn't do the package. Okay. Where's our package? Oh, he might have just put it off. Okay. All right, hold off on that. He has it later. So that is the conference. So I'll show you that then. So you guys have a visual of what we're going to be doing.
And once this is done, you'll be able to log in at login.sig. You can go to that quickly whenever. Yeah, because it's going to end up redirecting you back to stage. Well, here, that's because you're going through, this is a step. I've had people like,
Oh my gosh, this is so slow. So slow. Were you able to figure out your DE account? Okay. We'll figure it out. Okay, so let me just show you. I'm sorry, that is not the Bitly account to the package. We'll get there. But I want to show you what we're going to be working on. Now, I think some have indicated they've done this. Come on. It's coming up. And, you know, if you want to stay and then you just don't do those parts where the code, because we're going to walk through the code, we'll explain what the code is saying, because sometimes people just cut and paste code and they don't quite know what it's doing. They just know it works. So the point of being here is so that I can help guide you to understand what the code is doing. So in here, here we go, it's slowly coming up. So we are going to do the building the application, the conference management app. In here, you're going to see that once it comes up, there are several steps. Well, it must be. Here we go. So in here, steps 1 and 2, we have a package we're going to install that take care of those steps. So that we'll be able to go directly into step 3. But we're going to talk about some Apex before we start going off and coding. Does that make sense? I want to give you a visual where we're going, okay? So I will give you that bit.ly when we get to that point. All right, so let's jump back to the slides and get a sense of what are we talking about here. All right, so we went there. Here we go. So now, a little history in computers, right? The App Cloud makes building apps 70% faster, right? So legacies, who developed on legacy apps? Legacy development. What was it?
all of the stuff that you see there.
Okay, give me one experience.
Setting up an intranet, for instance.
Okay, setting up an internet. Okay. Old school. COBOL. That's like old school. That's an old G right there. I'm right there with you. I did mainframe. I know you wouldn't think how I look. I'm that old. I'm kidding, but yeah, I was a prodigy child, right? No, listen, I coded mainframe JCL at the World Trade Tower. Yep, job control language at the World Trade Center. I was there, not during that time, but before. I developed mainframes. I also developed client server on PeopleSoft. We were talking about you still work on PeopleSoft, right? So I worked in something called PeopleCode, and setup alone, just getting you ready to start doing development was a long process. You had to install stuff. You had to compile certain libraries, and I used to always use it as a developer. Oh yeah, I gotta install this stuff, and it's gonna take me another week before I can get started. Buy myself some time. And then finally, I could build an app. And for those, how many of you guys have built apps on the platform? It didn't have to be with code, right? How long did it take you?
I don't know, it could be as quick as a couple hours if I was building a bunch of fields.
Right. If it's something as simple as building a bunch of fields,
A few objects.
few objects, boom. How long? 30 minutes. So she's like, 30 minutes. Apparently she's an expert. She's like, what? Done, right? She must build in production. I want to see you after class. But no, you can do that, right? Not that you should, but you can. So the point being is that it's really easy to build with the tools. And if you haven't noticed sort of the trend of what Salesforce has been doing, creating tools that empower our admins to build with more complexity without having to code. I mean, think about Process Builder, right? I mean, Process Builder takes over a lot of different stuff that we used to have to write Apex for. So really, developer takes on a whole new definition. I don't even like these labels, developer, admin. You're creators. They're creators. How I choose to create something is different than maybe how you choose to create something. But at the end of the day, we've created something, all right? So we'll talk about some of those tools and in terms of how it goes. So giving you a sense of, tools for building any app, our infrastructure. So at the bottom is multi-tenant. We're a multi-tenant architecture. What does multi-tenant mean? People like to throw that word around. Oh yeah, multi-tenancy. Oh yeah, multi-tenancy. Multi-tenancy. Oh, this is multi-tenancy. What does that mean? Are you one of those word throwers? Oh, I see. Oh, I just. Go ahead.
I'm going to guess. Not enough.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
That the data is distributed across a lot of machines, so that calls and different balancing.
You're in the area.
So a lot of corporate companies or organizations use the same space. They have to share the same resources.
Yes. So multi-tenancy sounds like it. What it sounds like. Think of an apartment building, multi-tenants. Everybody lives in the same building but has their own unit, right? I lock up my doors and then my area is secure, your area is secure. I only pay for the energy that my portion uses. You pay for, what your portion uses. Economy of scales. We don't pay for the whole building. However, we have the shared lobby or the shared backyard, the shared rooftop area, whatever the case may be. We're in the same unit. So what that means for our structure, our customers are on the same servers and they're on the same infrastructure, but they don't see each other, right? There's a security where data is not shared across, right? But resources are. So when you log in, think of it, we all go through the same lobby. We all go through the same entry point, and then based off of our URL, we're getting pointed to different places, to different orgs for that part. Now, why multi-tenancy? I remember back in the day, I want to say, when was this? Maybe early 2000s, I had heard hosted solution and multi-tenant. And I remember somebody explaining multi-tenancy to me. I was like, oh, it sounds like a hosted solution. Very different. Very different. Yes, the customer does not have to worry about a data center in both scenarios, right? Because the hosted means I'm going to take over all of the data center stuff. You just log in. But what's different is the structure of the two. Multi-tenancy means I'm going to have one server with all my customers on it, and it's going to be economy of scales. Versus hosted solution is I'm going to buy a building and I'm going to put a server A in here for customer Z. I'm going to put another server in here, so each person has their own servers. So I'm still paying for this humongous server that I may not be using everything on, right? So no real economy of scale there. So I remember that used to be an area where I wasn't always very clear on the hosted versus multi-tenant. Now multi-tenancy comes with a different perspective. So now that you're in a shared environment, just like if you live in an apartment building, you need to be cognizant of your neighbors, right? Can't go tap dancing on the floor. Well, you could, but it wouldn't be very nice to the people below you. Well, it wouldn't be very nice for you to write an infinite loop and suck up all of the resources while I'm trying to get better performance, but you have it all hogged up. But that won't happen because we have something called, anybody want to guess? Limits. Limits. But limits can have a negative connotation. Makes it sound like, oh, you're limited. I actually, and that was a change of perspective for me, it taught me how to be a better developer. This is how I phrase it in my own head, kind of scary, but I would say it taught me how to be a green coder, meaning I only utilize server space that I need. Nothing more, nothing less. How many of you guys have heard of SQL? Okay. What does select star do? Brings everything. So when I was a developer, people saw me like, select star, I'm pulling everything in. And guess how many of those fields I would use? A handful. And how many did I pull in? 500. Well, there is no concept of a select star in SOCL, which we'll talk about. It makes you explicitly select the fields that you want off an S object. It's making you be efficient. I'm not going to allow you to waste space due to you not wanting to explicitly write the names of your fields, right? I'm going to need you to think about what you need. So that's just a small example. So it makes me become a better coder from my perspective. I was a little bit of a sloppy coder, hence the reason I moved out of development. If you can't do it, you teach it, right? That's what you do. So all right, so that's the multi-tenant program. There's programmatic development, which we can do with Apex, and if you're on a Heroku, pretty much anything, Ruby, Java. And then we have declarative development, process builder, app builder, schema builder, workflows, all kinds of stuff that you can do declaratively, clicks no code. And they are that's how Salesforce started a lot. And then we extended over to the programmatic side. And then there's platform services, all kinds around security. You also have the ability to do global search, sharing and permissions. For my real newbies into Salesforce, one thing I want you to take away to know that you need to understand whether you're choosing to code or whether you're choosing to do point and click. You've got to understand the sharing model. So make sure you take a trail or whatever the case may be, but understand how we lock down access to data. Understand the sharing model. There is an awesome video series called Who Sees What? Anybody saw that one? Would you attest to it was good? Very good. And it's free, YouTube, Who Sees What? Okay? I highly encourage you check that out. Mobile service, so everything we does automatically trickles over to the mobile services. Okay? It's mobile ready. And then, we can do deployment. You can, some of the ways we can do the development, Dev Console, IDE, sandboxes, which we want to do it in, right? And we'll look at this. Agile Accelerator, which is our version of Gust. Now, this is one of my favorite slides because it just kind of points out how the different tiers of Salesforce, how you can do development on programmatic or point and click, right? So think of Salesforce as a 3-tier architecture. You have the data model, you have the business logic, and the user interface. That's similar to what? Starts with the M. I'm about to say ends in a C. What is it? MVC, Model View Controller, right? So data model, business logic, user interface. Each of these tiers have a set of tools that allow you to build applications. Now, the left is our declarative approach, point and click, no code. Our right is our programmatic approach. So over here in the data model, how can I build out my data model? Data model being, you know, my custom objects or customizing my standard objects. I can do all of these things, create custom object, custom fields, create relationships with clicks and no code, right? How many people have created a custom object, right? Did you code it? If you did, we need to talk, okay? But you could also, if you wanted to, you could programmatically utilize the metadata API. So if I wanted to write some Java program or some C# that called in using the metadata API to create those custom objects, I could, right? So now, also on the business logic is the area where you're going to go in to enforce, well, not enforce, I don't like that word, enforce, but you're structuring your system to adhere to your business users' needs. My business users may say, I don't want anybody inputting a value in this field if they didn't input a value in this field. That's a unique business process or business logic. There's all kinds of things that I can do declaratively to enforce that, right? Clicks, no code. I could write a validation rule. No coding for that. Now, when my business logic gets more complex and I need to, you know, do beyond that, I might have to write some Apex code. And then the user interface. For those who created a custom object before, what does it give you when you create a custom object? Oh. What else do you get? You create the custom object. Page layout. Page layout. Back in the day on PeopleSoft, as you know, you build a table, all you got is a table. You then need to go create the form that's going to interact with that data storage. Here, you create the data storage, and it generates a UI for you. That's Salesforce gift to you. You're welcome, right? Now, it doesn't always look the way you want it to, so you can go and customize, you can change it. But for the most part, a lot of this is generated for you. And now we got the Lightning App Builder. All of these, no code. You want to go beyond that? We have solutions for that. Now, here's the thing. 80% to 90% of what you need is going to be covered declaratively. It's always at 20 or 10. And I always say, you know what? When you build things in the declarative, you don't have to worry about, will it adhere to my sharing model? If I write a process builder, will it, you know, enforce certain people's users' profiles and things like that? It's automatically taken care of for you. Not the case when you start writing code, okay? The left side is like living at home. Everything is taken care of for you, right? And, you know, your phone, clothes, but what do your parents say? Under my roof, my rules. Not a lot of flexibility, not a lot of space. So you want to be grown, you move out to the programmatic side. Now you have all the freedom. Coding gives you lots of flexibility, but you also have what? Responsibility. So when you choose to do a coded solution, you have the responsibility to ensure that your code is adhering to certain security features. When my code runs, will it show all the records as if it's the system admin? Or will it adhere to the user settings? You got to set that up. So with control, with flexibility comes responsibility. You got to pay a price somewhere, right? So if you move out, you got to pay your own bills. Right? Hence the reason all my kids are still home. And the fact they're 7. But, you know, we're whatever, right?
Will we get these slides later?
I don't know. I will find out for you, though. Do they have a chowder thing that you guys are following for the Trailhead? X or no? And then I give them my PayPal account, and then I forgot that part. Or you can go directly to me. Like I said, I got, you know, twin 7-year-olds that need to go to college one day. I forgot this is being recorded. Okay. Huh? There you go. I'm saying, talk to me. No, we'll see. I'll find out for you. I'll find.
Recording this session?
They are.
Yeah.
So they might.
On YouTube or, you know,
This will probably be, but I don't know if they'll give out the slides. I would like. I'll find out. I'll find out. How about that? I will find out. If I wasn't being recorded. All right, so let's keep it going. The conference app, we will build, we talked about this. The schema for sessions and speakers, we already have that in an installed package. We are going to add, we will be doing the automatically send confirmation emails out for that. We'll do the code for that. And then we're going to do the code for performing validation against other data. That's going to be a trigger. And then these parts are ones that you can do on your own. These are going to be the homework. This is the additional that is still part of that conference app. Now, the first part is to set up your DE org. I think we've all are established there that you guys already have one or you signed into one. Now, this is the bit.ly that you need for the installing of the package. And then we're going to verify it. So what I'd like you to do is here, go to this bit.ly. And when you type it in, it's going to ask you for your login credentials. This is where you will provide your DE org, okay? Yeah, so make sure it's the DE. Don't be logged into any of your sandboxes or your work. This one, the TDX 16. This one is a different line. Yep, bit.ly/TDX-16-Apex-test-1. No, that's fine. You can be. Yeah.
It just may ask you to log again.
Good. Yeah, so it's installing in yours over here. Good, good, good. So when you get, go ahead, you can either choose install for admins only or all users. It's up to you because it's your org. Okay? So yeah, it might ask you. So you're going to use the same org? No. Okay. Do it dev org, okay. Oh, that means you've done the conference app. So you can either rename them. I'm going to log into mine. You're good? You're good? Installed? You're good? Yeah. I did. No, there's a check mark on lead. Oh, yes. And you passed? You passed the check mark? What is he? What's showing up? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Once you have installed successfully in your org, you should have an app called Conference available in the drop-down. You have one? Oh, yeah, it passed. Go here and click on your drop-down. And, okay, you have Conference. Good. Do you have Conference? Awesome. Conference, awesome. They have Conference. Okay, good. How you guys doing over here? Ladies doing over here? You're in charge of this row. You're in charge of this row. Okay. Yeah. Any questions? Because look at that. Look at your shirt. Ah. My kids took mine. They are. I know. I don't know what I was thinking or wasn't thinking. How we doing? How you doing? You good? Okay. You good? You got it in? Okay, you guys are. Oh, this is the advanced. So I gotta watch you guys. I'm gonna have you write test code too. Oh.
non-object oriented.
Oh.
I know it seemed like a little baby, but I've been hacking it and stuff forever.
But that's how you chose to present yourself. That's what that was. She was like, oh, I'm not going to answer the right question. Well, I was making sure.
I've never programmed it. Very different.
Okay, so you broke in code. I'll have to remember that.
Very different experience.
Make sure I keep my credit card in my pocket from this one. Hacker alert.
So I had done some things in the developer side in the Dreamforce
Oh.
because I see here some of these
This
things.
conference, yeah. Well, when we installed the app, it did this for us. When we did the install, when we did this piece, when we did this piece expedite us into that project in that there are certain steps 1 and steps 2 that just were installed for us because for the sake of time. Okay. All right. So let's talk about writing Apex. So what is Apex? Apex is a Force.com native programming language. It is object-oriented. It's not a procedural language, right? Tenant secure. This is what's really important. What does anybody think that means? Tenant secure. Well, it's a proprietary language to Salesforce platform. And remember I talked about we all are on the same server. So when my code is running here, your code's running here because it's running in the same virtual memory space, but it's secure in that it can't see each other. That's what's really special about Apex, right? That's why we created our own language on the platform one, so we can build out what was already built point and click, our customers can, and it is tenant secure. Security is the number one. Trust is the number one value, right? If we're going to be multi-tenant, we need to ensure no one can hack over to each other's data. She's like, why did I tell you that? And then it's similar to Java and C#. You know, you have your methods, you have your attributes, you have your constructors. We'll see all of those. But there are some things that are very different. It's very different. I read an article once where somebody was comparing Java to Apex, and it's apples and oranges, right? Java, you can build pretty much anything in. Apex is meant specifically to be tied to the platform, to extend the platform. You don't just go and build Apex without the platform, right? So Java is kind of, you know, you can create anything, a gaming system, anything in it, from the ground up. It compiles to Java bitcode in the back end, because it's all built on, you know, the product is in Java in the back end. So it does compiles to Java bitcode, and it is strongly typed. Strongly typed meaning if I instantiate or create a variable that is of type string, it can only take in values that are of type string, okay? So there's no intermingling of types. I've heard Apex is a bit funny. It is. It's not a standalone language. It must be used on the platform, as I was saying earlier. Compiled only on the server, not a local compiler. So when you save your code, it goes to our app server and it is compiled on the app server. From there, and let me take a step back. What does compiled mean?
Translating into machine code.
Yes. Is that a question?
I'm just doing the California.
Yeah. No. I said when you say stuff in my class, you say it with conviction. So let's try that again.
Translating to machine code.
That's what I'm talking about. Because I'm originally from New York, and we don't do that, right? It's like we'll say something with conviction even if we're wrong. The sky is purple. Okay. And then people start thinking the sky is actually purple, right? So it is translating it to machine code. So taking it from human speak and putting it into computer speak. Once it does that, compiled Apex is saved. I wish I had a whiteboard. I'm a big whiteboarder. It is saved in the database as compiled code, as metadata. What else is saved as metadata in Salesforce? What's another example of metadata? An object, an S object, a field, a workflow rule.
I don't know what an S object is.
A Salesforce object. Salesforce object. We're talking the same thing though. Account, cases, your data storage places, right? Custom S objects. So these are stored as metadata. Your compiled Apex code is stored as metadata. So it's not compiled locally on your machine. Now, does people go, well, can I save my code locally? Of course. If you use the Force.com IDE, which is a plugin into Eclipse, it's stored locally on your machine. Now, what happens is if I save the code, it will save locally on my machine. But if it does not have a clean save, a clean compile, it won't save up to the cloud. So while it's saved locally on my machine, it won't save up to the cloud. Okay? So only compiled code saves to the cloud. All right? So once again, you hit save, goes to the app server, compiles it. From the app server, it gets translated from human speak to computer speak, machine language, and then gets saved into your database as metadata. Okay? Governor limits we talked about a little bit, right? Because we want everybody to have equal share to the resources. We don't want anybody monopolizing resources. So we want to make sure that, it's kind of like if you put limits in an apartment building, I don't want, tenant A to take a 2-hour hot shower and then everybody else is out in cold water. So definitely have limits in place to ensure the performance of all. Some of the Apex syntax constructs, primitive data types. We have primitive data types, the lowest level of data types that you can have in Apex that cannot be broken down any further. Whole list of them. Flow control, we have things such as if statements, for statements, while loops. Those you want to hear old school, do while. Who does a do while loop? What does a do while loop do? I always think of do wop when I hear that. I'm like, do wop loop, do while loop. Right, even it will, at minimum, it will execute once because it doesn't check the condition until afterward, right? Anyway, these are different flow constructs. Exception handling, what is that? Errors, right? Sometimes I get people answering something that no programmers do. I go, no, a good developer will always do exception handling. Handling when things go wrong in your code, right? Does it stop things from going wrong? No. But it puts something in place to handle it so that the system doesn't handle it, right? Collections, lists, sets, maps, similar to a list is pretty much a what? Anybody worked with? Array. It's an array, right? These are our collections. It is case insensitive. So you could write your Apex in all caps on one line. I do not recommend that. But my point being, it's case insensitive, right? There are conventions around writing it, common conventions to make it more legible and maintainable. We'll talk about some of those. Single quotes for strings, not double quotes. So strings, yes?
You know what, I'm sorry, I'm still trying to get this resolved. I don't know what that bitly was.
Oh, for the...
With the 16 in it.
The package bit.
Sorry, I should have copied it down. It's a weird conflict.
So, yeah, so strongly typed. We have our if statements, for statements, while statements. It is case insensitive. Thank you. Case insensitive. And there's one more. Single quotes. Single quotes go around string values. They're not encapsulated in double quotes. Okay? Can you do me a favor, AC, and just take a picture of that? I'm going to go.
Okay.
Yeah. Just in case anybody else needs that. No worries. You'll get a compile error. It will catch in the compile. And all lines are terminated with semicolons. So that's how you end a sentence, right? You have end a sentence with a period. You end a line of code with semicolons. Okay.
If it's case insensitive, that's just when you're writing it, it can be case sensitive when like comparing two records.
It depends. So you're saying if I check something inside of two string variables and I say if this equals this and inside of one it says capital H-E-L-L-O and the other one says lowercase h-E-l-l-o, those two will be seen as equal.
They do, so that's why I use
So there's methods such as lowercase, string dot uppercase, string dot lowercase, where you can do those things. But for the most part, yeah. And I only knew that from debugging. Because my mindset was like, those are different. Those are different. I have it in quotes. They're different. Nope. Yeah, it is a big gotcha. So ID types, some of our language features. We have a unique data type called ID. What's an ID in Salesforce? How long is it? 15 or 18, right? 15-digit case sensitive, right? And the first three are unique to the what? To the object. So if I I can go look at all the records on, all the data that lives on the account object, and all of those would have the same first three characters because those three are unique to that type of object. It is also a data type in Apex, so I can declare a variable to be of ID type. Okay? And when you're dealing with IDs in Apex, it is the 18. You can feed it the 15, it gets converted to the 18. There is an object class. So this is where I want my whiteboard. But when I say object, you guys think of what in Salesforce? What do you think about? Accounts, contacts, leads, the data storage structures, those ones that store your data. We're now talking about Apex, which is an object-oriented language. Objects takes on a different definition. What is an object in Apex? It is a programming construct. So therefore, we refer to those, accounts, contacts, all the other objects as S objects. S object data structure, I'm going to write on these walls. S object data structures that hold data live in the database, right? Then you have the S object class that lives in the app server, in Apex code, in the virtual memory, where your Apex code runs. So you can have the S object, which you can think of as Salesforce object. That's the same thing that you've been thinking about object. It's just that an object now, within the context of what we're talking about, takes on a different meaning. When I'm talking about object-oriented code, an object comes from a class. That object can come from an S object class, or it can come from any other kind of classes that I have available to me. Okay? So S object class, think of this, lives on the app server. Your X object data structure lives on the database. Okay? And those two do connect. And we'll talk about that. Okay? I just want you to start thinking about objects in terms of programming constructs. They live in memory. Memory is on the app server. Okay. Built-in support for data access. Another beautiful thing about Apex is that I can write DMLs that automatically will pull data right into to memory, and I can start having my Apex code work on that data. So I can go and do any kind of SOCL statement, pull it in, work on that data, and then once that data is worked on, I need to take it from memory and put it back into the database. And I can use DML constructs. And I have built-in classes in Apex that are DML classes. I have database.insert, database.update, database.delete that I don't have to write the code for. I just invoke those methods, okay? We'll look at that. Built-in test framework. So many people don't see this as blessings, but you have to write test code, test classes. It's one thing if you know how to write Apex and you're just, tearing it up in your sandbox, and it is awesome. But if you don't know how to write test classes, your code will remain in your sandbox. Okay? So test classes are huge. You have to have 75% coverage, right, in order to deploy it. And I'll give you some great places where you can learn more about that. I definitely have a great, I'll tell you where, a 2.5-hour session on that. All right, so let's look at an Apex class. Once again, I just want to we don't have that kind of time, but classes, when you talk object-oriented, everything in object-oriented is a class, right? classes, from the classes, you abstract, you create objects. Objects come from a class. When you define a class, you define two main things: attributes and methods. Sometimes people refer to attributes as variables or properties, right? And methods. Attributes are the describers of the class. Methods are the actions. So let me just give you an example. Think of, this is because it's an abstract concept. Think of each one of us, we're an object, and we come from a class. What would be that class? I don't know you personally like that, but I'm going to take a leap of faith here that we all come from the human class, right? The class is the abstract, the object is the tangible, is the thing that you can touch, feel, see. The class is the idea, is the blueprint. So if I had to think of the human class into attributes and methods, what are the attributes for humans? Hair. That could be Boolean, true or false, right? Height, weight. If I had to define these, right? Every possible thing that could define an object that comes from that class. And then if I had to describe methods, what are the methods for the human class? They can think. Some people, I got some folks that, and that can be true or false, right? Eat, walk, all of the actions, right? Now, I am an object from the human class, so if I wanted to access my attributes, I could say Leah.arms equals 2. What you won't see is Leah.wingspan equals 200 feet. Why will you not see the attribute wingspan? It's not an attribute of the class. So the objects have access only to the items from the class in which it comes from. Make sense? Okay? So I want you to keep that in mind as we go through code, because you're going to see we're creating a class, and then when we instantiate, the process of creating an object from a class, an object is an instance of a class. Therefore, you're instantiating an object. Okay? And plus, when you say instantiate, people think you really are smart. I think I've instantiated some objects today at work, Wow, she must do some really important stuff. So, okay, here's a class. In this class, we have some, in this case, we have some attributes here: amount, rate, years. They have getter and setter classes. It's very common to see with visual force controllers. And anybody who's worked in C# will notice this notation. If you're not working with controllers, you won't see that notation. So in the code that we'll look at a little bit later, you probably won't see that.
Where did you identify the object here?
We have not. Good. We have not. This is just the class, just the definition of class. And in the class, so it has 3 attributes: data type, double, rate, and integer, and a method here called calculate monthly payment. This method returns a double. And here, if you notice, just as the attributes have what we call an access modifier, so does the method. The access modifier says, how far reaching? Who can access this? Public means any code within that org can touch this class. So public is anything within the class. Okay? There's public, private, protected, and global. Public means anything within the class. Now, methods are a little different than attributes, because methods are our actions. They do something. So they're going to be a little bit more complicated. They're going to have a little bit more substance to them. So in here, this is what this method does. It's almost like a, dare I say, function. Okay? And in here, I know some people are like, oh, don't mix procedural and object-oriented, because functions are very procedural. But conceptually, functions do stuff and then return things back to you. This method called calculate monthly payment does something. It calculates the monthly payment. It does not take in any input parameters, but it returns a double. So it does this, does all of this calculation, and then if you see a data type before your method name, you must see the keyword return somewhere in that method. Because if I have a data type here, I'm saying I return this type of data. So therefore, in the method, you must see the keyword return. If I did not put the keyword return in there, I would not be able to compile. Vice versa, what if I have a method that doesn't return anything? Exactly. I don't see the word double here, I'd see void. Void means I don't return anything. And if I don't return anything, I better not see the keyword return. Okay? All right, so what are some of the development tools? So that was creating the class. We still haven't looked at what you said, where's the object? Want to create we'll look at where we create the object. Okay? So typically you create a class, and then you might you access that class in a trigger, in execute anonymous code, in a Visualforce controller. Okay? So it's like I create this class, now I'm going to use it in these different places. All right? And we'll look at that. Different development tools. I've used the Development Council. I use the Force.com IDE. These other ones I have not. Have anybody used any of these other ones? I've heard good things. Which one have you used, AC? Yeah, I've heard a lot about Maven's Mate. Okay. Feeling. So you have any questions about that? They'd love to talk to you. Developer Console is where we are going to be working because why? It's built directly into our org. Has anybody used it? Okay. Pretty cool. It took me a while to convert. I used to be a die-hard Force.com IDE clip wizard until I kept running into issues every time I tried to install the plugin on the new one. Then I realized, you know what, Leah, just go use the DE org. And I'm just, the Developer Console inside of your org. And it's grown immensely in terms of its capabilities. So if you have been having apprehensions, I encourage you, get on the bandwagon, learn about it, check it out. Here, these are all the different things you can do inside the Developer Console. You can create classes. You can create pages. You can create triggers. You can execute Apex anonymously. That does not mean that they don't know who you are. Okay? What it means is you're running code outside of a context, right? Meaning it is not a trigger that invoked this code. It is not a Visualforce page that invoked this code. It is not an email handler. I'm executing code right here in this window. The code that you execute is not saved. It's just outside of context. But I guarantee your name is attached to it, so it's not anonymous. Execute SOCL queries. You can run SOCL queries inside of the Developer Console. You can run unit tests, and you can review debug logs. Okay, all kinds of good stuff. So in Lab 2, you guys are now going to create the Apex class. So what you're going to need to do, and my helpers will definitely help you out, and I'll do it up here too. You want to go to, you should have your trailhead, your DE org here, and have your trail. Go to projects. And you guys are probably already there. I'm probably a little behind. It is so hot up here. Down here in your projects. So now with Conference Management app, you want to go to step number 3. Okay? I'm probably not going to give you a full 15 minutes for this because in here, you're going to create a class. And I'll walk you through with it. I already did this one, but I'll create a different name class. So what we're doing here to give you some context is we're going to create a class called Email Manager. All right? And so this Email Manager is going to be used to send out confirmation emails to our attendees. But the first part is creating the class. Okay? So how are you going to do this? So you want to be in your org. And you want to go ahead and click on your name up here and select Developer Console. Now you notice Developer Console spins off another window. So it's using your login credentials and it's creating another sort of login. I did mine. But if you work in Developer Console and then let's say, don't do this, but let's say you click back here and you start doing work inside your org, when you go back to your Developer Console, you could be logged out of here. So sometimes when you come back to your console, Developer Console, you may have to it will say something like resume, I guess not because I'm still connected. Either resume or you just might have to reopen it up, okay? So there can be chances at times that it will kick you out, all right? So let's pretend, I'm going to close this. No. Okay, because that's the code. We're going to, I don't want to. Yes, I'm sorry. So now we're going to go ahead. Does everybody in their Developer Console? Go ahead and click on the file and say new Apex class. And they want you to call this class, they want you to call it, where did my stuff go? What are we calling it? Email manager? Let me see. I don't want to lead you down the wrong path. We're going to call it email manager. So create the class to be called email manager. I probably can't create it because I already have it. Let's see what it does. Yeah. All right. Let me do new. If you, like me, have it already, I'm just going to call it email manager 2. Okay. But only if, did anybody else have to do that? Because you have this already, you already have this code in here.
It's slightly different than the one in the thing.
Okay.
One of the other modules.
Okay, so we got to remember that as we build the trigger and things like that. So now we need to go back and we need to look at the code. So they want us to copy this code. Oh, sorry, I do it this way. If you hover over and just do copy, otherwise if you do what I was initially doing, you'll get the numbers, okay? So once again, hover over the code, and then you'll see this little menu come up, and you want to go ahead and click on the copy. Once you copy it, delete everything here and paste it. Now, if you were like me and you had to give it a different name, when you paste it, make sure you change that class name to whatever you created it. So basically,
When I did the hover and then the copy of the clipboard, it says this web page is content that requires a WFlash player plugin.
mine said the same thing. I just said okay. Yeah. So make sure the bottom line is, regardless, not just here, but you want to make sure your class name is the exact same name as your file, because you can get errors if it's not. Once you save this, which you can either say Control S or click on File and Save, you should get a clean save. Now, how do I know I have a clean save and it's saved? There's no asterisk next to the file name. If there's an asterisk, and you see down here something in red, I'll break my code. It's always hard for me to write bad code, so bear with me. So here, I have an asterisk, which means my code is not saved. And then over here, it tells me there's a problem. Okay? So keep that in mind when you're saving, because a lot of times people think, oh, I saved it. No, you click the save button, but the code didn't save because the code did not compile. Oh, how do you paste in a Mac? Is it the command button? So the command the command button? Yeah. Okay, let's go back to you. All right. You were able to get it copied in? So let's look at this code for a minute. Were you able to, oh no? Yeah, then always save. Save early, save often, right? What is this code saying? This is a class. Classes are made up of what? Attributes and methods. Or you can think of MA, right? MA, methods and attributes, whatever works for you. Or MO. Ma. All right, whatever. Here, we only have a method. Has one method. The method starts on line number 3. What do I know about that method just by looking at line number 3? How do you know that? Because the keyword void is there. What else do I know about this method? It has 3 input parameters. Address, subject, and body. What else do I know about it? It's public, which means what? Anybody inside the org can use it, okay? So we know that about the method. Public void, the name of the method is also sendMail. Here's another tip. I also know that this is an instance method, which means I need an instance of an object to access it, which means I need to instantiate an object. There's something called static methods and then instance methods. Static methods do not require an object. Instance methods require an object. If this were a static method, you'd see the keyword static. If you do not see the keyword static, it is an instance method. Why is it important to know? Because one of the key things is not just learning how to write object-oriented language, but how to read documentation. Because object-oriented language is all about reusing what is delivered, and what is delivered is usually highly documented. And if you come across this and you see, oh, this is an instance method, what the heck does that mean? Oh, that means I need an instance of this class, aka an object, okay? So this is an instance method, and what does it do? Line number 4, it creates an object called mail. It creates an object called mail from the single email message class. It's instantiating an object from the single mail message class. That is a delivered class from Salesforce. That's not a user-defined class. We deliver that class. That's why you want to know the Apex Developers Guide. We deliver tons of classes. Object-oriented, once again, is about reusing what's out there. Don't recreate the wheel. See what's there first. So here I create a method, which is basically creating a mail message. And then I create a list called toAddresses, a list of strings, okay? And then here's my mail object, mail.setToAddress. That is a method. And I'm applying the input parameter for that method. And then here, mail, which is my object, dot setSubject, another method. And I'm applying the subject that's being passed in. And then mail, which is my object, dot setPlainTextBody, which is the body being passed in. Oh. So here, this mail object comes from the single email message class. This mail object then invokes these different methods. These methods come from what class? Say it louder. I can't hear you. I'm old. Single email message. It is single email message, interclass of messaging, but this is the class. Yes. So this is the class. In that class, these are some of the methods for that class.
How do we find out what classes are already existing?
A great question. So the starting place would be Apex Developers Guide. Apex Developers Guide. So in the Apex Developers, I'll show you after. I'll get to it.
The messaging dot, single email message, what is it?
So it's usually indicator of an inner class, meaning single email message is an inner class to the messaging class. So you can have inner classes, but we're not going to go there right now. It can either be a namespace or an inner class. And think of namespace as this. Think of a file. Like I have, a folder called My Documents, and then inside that folder I have another folder called Personal Documents. This would be My Documents. This would be my personal documents. Okay. And then I invoke the method, send the email, and I invoke another single email message, and I send the mail. They actually did a list. They instantiated a list of these and then invoked the mail object, which they didn't do it in a loop. That's interesting, because I guess you can't do just a single one. So they instantiate an array of them, and in it they populate that one mail message that we created. Because the send email method, I think, only takes an input parameter of arrays. So even if I'm sending just one message, it still has to be in the format of an array. So this is our class. Doesn't mean we have not invoked an object from this class just yet, okay? Because we're going to need to in order to invoke the method sendMail, okay? So that's the first part, is creating the class, right? Now, oh my gosh, I'm running out of time. All right, supersonic speed, accessing data with SQL and DML. So, SOCL, we talked about it, is standard query object language. It's similar to SQL, but it's not SQL. SQL goes against real physical tables. Objects, my friends, are not physical tables. They're an abstraction layer above. So therefore, it's not the same. Conceptually, it's the same because my data lives over here in the database. My Apex is over here in my app server. I need to go from my app server to the database to pull out data. So SOCL allows me to pull data from the database and bring it into memory for my Apex code, okay? So that's our SOCL, and it's a different language. It's not the same as Apex. It's a different language. Streamlined syntax to traverse. You can do nested SOCL statements to traverse, meaning I want to go from a parent record to a child record. So for every parent record, get all the children records. We'll look at that. Built into Apex, so you can put SOCL statements directly into Apex. We'll look at examples that do that. And read-only, okay? We have different syntax to change data. So it's read-only. When you use SOCL, it pulls it in as read-only. Well, you pull the data in, and then your Apex code changes the data, and then you got to do DML to put it back. All right, so basic statement, select ID name from the contact object. I'm getting the ID, I'm getting the name, and the phone number from the contact object. Am I filtering on any rows of data? No. Until I add my where clause, right? Where is going to say, which rows do I want to bring? I only want to bring back countries with the mailing records with the mailing country of Spain. Then I can do an and. The name is like, there's Rosa in between, okay? It's going to get you lots of names, right? Maria Rosa, Rosa Maria, I don't know. Wild card, right? Pull back all kinds of data. And then order by name. And by default, it will order in ascending order. If I want descending, I'd have to add DSC at the end of this, okay? By default, it is ascending order, okay? And then if I wanted to be, even more efficient with my SOCL statement, I can say, by the way, limit how many rows you pull back. Only bring me back 50 rows of data. Okay. The limit is a keyword. And then, wait, what? What am I doing now? So I'm selecting from the account contact, right? What is contact's relationship to account? It's a child. So for all contacts, I'm saying I also want the parent account name. So how do I reference that? Through the dot notation. So here, I say bring back not just this information, but bring back the parent's name. Okay? That's how this is their way of joins, right? I can also go the other direction. Instead of going up, I want to go down, okay? So I want to go down and include my children. So here, I can say select first name, last name, phone from contacts from the account. So here, I'm starting at the account object, and for every account that I get, I also want to pull back all of the children rows, all my related lists. Okay. So you're able to go down. Okay.
So you don't have to explicitly limit it to the context-related data.
Right, it's done so by where I start. Yep. Sure. So when I do, how many can I go up? Anybody know how many levels you can go up and how many levels you can go down? 5. Go up 5, down 1. So I can only get my children. I can't get my great-great-grandchildren, my babysitting stops at my grandchildren. Whichever works for you. 5 up, 1 down. Okay. Yes.
Can you just back it up?
Sure.
No, I'm just saying when you're doing
Oh, I'm like, oh, back it up. What?
referencing
5 up.
up, then you would just do the highest one dot, then the second highest one dot, or you just go in order.
Oh, you're saying, and when I'm going up, right? You do the dotting, just similar to what you do with writing formula fields.
It's in the order of traversal from where you started. So if there was like a parent contact and grandparent contact, it would be, or account, it would be like account dot parent account dot parent account dot parent.
Yep. You string them via the dots. And you go, the way you get through, see, it's straightforward when you're talking about standard. But when I'm talking about custom relationships, how do I get there? What's my pointer? Anybody remember? The underscore underscore R. R. R is how you get up there. Because if I do underscore underscore C, that's just the reference of the ID of the parent. I don't want the ID. I want the R. So it's the same thing if you've done cross-object formulas, and you've seen where it would go underscore underscore R. Same concept.
What if you have like a junction object? You can go across a junction.
You cannot, because that's a many-to-many. So you're not going. You got to go up or down. You can't go up and then back over. I can't go get siblings or distant cousins or play cousins or BFFs, right? Either up or down. Okay. All right, I'm not going to demo because of the time. I want to be able to get you guys. We're going to be done. We're really only here till 2:30?
The next session starts at 3.
Well, we're here till they put us out. How about that? All right. Okay. If you have to go, I understand. If you want to hang with me, hang with me. All right, so inline, socle, and apex. So, all right, we understand socle. We understand apex. How do the two worlds come together for the greater good, right? So you can have, this is an example, over here on the, this is an assignment statement, right? On the right-hand side, I have a select that says select name type from the session underscore underscore C. What does this underscore underscore C tell me? Custom object. So I'm getting the name and the type, and it's going to give me a list of items, right? It's not just going to give me one row, it's going to give me multiple rows. So on the right-hand side, I better have a list available to store all the records that I'm going to be getting from my query. So on the left-hand side, I'm creating a list of object records, S-object records, that are of the session, called sessions. Okay. So this is going to go to the database, query the data, bring the data, and dump it into here. Yes?
Why is it an underscore underscore R?
Because this is a custom object. I want to go to this. So every custom object that you create gets underscore underscore C appended to it. It's not a field name. It's not a relationship. So if I were traversing, that's when I use the underscore underscore R. I'm dealing with one object here, session. Okay? And I'm just saying, give me all the name type, all the rows off that S object, and then put it into this variable. Okay? So here, this one is going to return a list of S object, or I can do an aggregate of a count. I can say select count from session underscore underscore C, where it will go and count all of the records, and then return that number into an integer variable. So whatever is on the right, it's either returning an integer, a single S object or a list of S objects. Whichever one it's going to return, you need to make sure you have it set up on the left-hand side so that you're getting the right item. Because I'll tell you where you'll get an error. Let's see if they show you. If I said, I didn't say list, and I just said session underscore underscore C, session, instantiating a single S object, and then I had this query that's returning a list, I would be basically saying, take this whole list of records and shove it into this single S object. The two don't match. And you would get an error. Okay? So set yourself up for success. Always have the appropriate construct for whatever you're querying, whether you're getting a number or a list of S objects or a single S object. Okay. Inline SOCL and Apex. So you can have here, string level equals advanced, right? I'm creating a variable called level, it's called advanced. And now I'm saying I want to get a list of sessions, but I only want the advanced sessions. So what I can do in my select statement, seen that, that's so 2 minutes ago. Now we're adding a where clause where level underscore underscore C, why do I have underscore underscore C on that field? It's a custom field, okay? Where it equals colon level. That colon indicates I am binding my SOCL statement with some Apex variables. So this allows for dynamic code. I can have this same statement and change the results by changing the value of this variable. This variable could be an input from a user, right? Hey, what level sessions do you want to see? Advanced, boom, run the query. I want to see intermediate, runs the query. So this allows for more dynamic results. Okay. It's binding the SOCL statement with your Apex code, your Apex variable. No, so I was saying with this, now this gets, right now we just hard coded it, right? But if my code, maybe I could set this up where this is a value on a Visualforce page that gets inputted and sets the value of this, and that's being used here in my SOCL statement. So I could have another piece of code. The point being, I could have my SOCL bind with my Apex code to allow for more dynamic results. And, right, and how that variable gets populated, exactly.
What do you mean bind?
Bind, it's taking the value of what's ever inside of here and using it in the SOCL statement. Because then I'd be hard coding. That won't be dynamic. So that means every time this query runs, it will always look for advanced sessions. Right. This is just an example of we're hard coding it here. In that case, what you're saying is yes, I could. But the point being, because this is an Apex variable, I don't have to hard code it. I could have code. Yeah, I could have. I could put something else. However my Apex code sets this variable, that value gets set here. All right, inline SQL in list filter variable. So here, this is kind of cool. So my code creates this list of string called levels, right? And once again, this is kind of hard coding it. They add to this list intermediate and advanced, right? Levels actually comes from the list class. I'm invoking the add method to add these levels to this array or list, right? So however this list variable gets populated, it gets populated. But here, it's my Apex code doing it. Now that it's populated, I can use the value of this list in my SOCL statement by saying, go give me the name and the level from the sessions S object where the level is in any of those. Go find them that's either is in there. Right now we have in there immediate and advanced. Once again, point of the other one, however this variable gets populated, we hard-coded it here. But once again, it could be something that, could get populated many different ways via Apex. Point being, you can bind the two for dynamic results. As an iterator. So here, you can use SOCL in for loops. And it will grab the first 200 records, process them, and then move on to the next. So here, I have for speaker _ C. This is a custom S object. And I just call it S. And I grab select email from speaker. It's going to grab these records, process it, and then I can process one of these records one at a time. I could also have, instead of a single S object there, I could have a list. I prefer this way, my way over that way. I could have a list on the left-hand side of the colon, and then have an inner loop, that for list loop that loops through that list.
When it is processing like 200 records at a time, and it hits an error on a specific record, let's say you're trying to update it to the all 200 records fail.
Well, great question. It depends. That's the consultant answer for everything. It depends, right? So obviously this is just grabbing the data. And then you're going to have your DML in here. If you have, depending on the type of DML that you use, if you use the standalone update, and if one record fails, the whole lot will fail. If you use the static method database.update, and in there you use a attribute called, there's one called all or none, and if you set that to false, it will process the ones that did not fail and error out the ones that didn't, similar to like what you see with data loader, right? So it depends. It depends on how you invoke that DML call. So it's not with the SOCL, it's with the DML. Which, good lead in, we rehearsed this earlier, brings me to talking about DML. So DML, which is data manipulation language, SOCL is how you pull data out. DML is going to be what? Put it back in. So I pulled this data out. I made all my changes. It's just hanging out in memory. It is not persisted back to the database. It is similar to if you pull up a record on Salesforce and you say, oh, here's the record I want to look at. You pull it up. You start making all these changes. And then you go, oh, yeah, I'm hungry. You walk away, go to lunch, come back. Were those changes reflected in the database? No, because you got timed out. You didn't hit save. It didn't take it from your memory and persist it to the database. Same thing. If you have your Apex code, pull in the data, run all this stuff, but you never send it back, and the Apex code finishes running, those changes are gone. So you need to know how to take what you did and put that data back to the database. That, my friends, is with DML, which stands for Data Manipulation Language, fancy way of saying inserts or update. Two different ways. You can do the standalone methods, insert, update, delete. Or you can do the static methods, database.insert, database.update, database.delete. I know inquiring minds want to know what is the difference. I'll tell you in a moment, okay? Insert, how do I use this? So here I instantiate an object called session from my SObject class called sessions _ C, right? So this is a custom SObject. So if I'm telling you I'm creating an object from this class, what are the attributes that this object has? Name, what are those things? Fields. All of the fields are attributes, right? So here's my object called session, the attribute .name, session .level. These are all fields on that SObject. So here I'm populating Apex 101, and then I'm populating level beginner. Right here, if this did not exist, this would be equivalent to a user going onto a session object and clicking new, right? If I click new, that's what this does. That's programmatically the same thing as a user clicking new. Creates an empty structure in memory. What's the next thing you do once you create an empty structure? Populate the fields. In Apex, populate the attributes. The formula field is an attribute, you don't populate it.
Yeah, but you can follow it.
You can pull it in, yes, because it's still a field. It's an attribute. So then here, once I populate these fields, it would be the same as me on the user populating the fields. Then what's the next thing I want to do? I want to click Save to send it off to the database. I want to click Insert to send that record to the database. So this is programmatically doing the exact same thing a user would do. Okay. But what we don't want to do is, what are they doing here? Oh, yeah. So you can, they're just showing you this, and this are the same.
There's different ways to insert standard objects.
Well, what they're doing is the same thing. Instead of it being 1, 2, 3 lines of code here to instantiate the object, right when they instantiate the object inside of new session, in that constructor, they set the values of those fields. So they got rid of lines 2 and 3 on the other slide. And they just combined to line 1. Oh, when you instantiate this object, also populate these values. Then once you do that, insert it. So instead of at minus 2 lines, so instead of 4, it was 2. Okay. Same thing. 2 different rows to the same end result. Trying to see. Okay. I'll probably close out with lab 3. So there's also update. Let me go back. Update. There is an update because they're looking at me like, a lady, get out of here. You know when the people with the phone start going, security. All right, update. So I can update. Here, I create 2 variables, old name, new name. And then in here, I want to say select the ID name from session where name equals old name. I'm getting the old name record. And then I want to change it to the new name. I can then run an update. Because when I pulled it in, I have the ID in memory. Okay? I can also, he was supposed to actually take the slides out. I can also do deletes. Okay? Now, we're going to close it with lab 3. But let me just go back really quick and show you deletes. So here I could say, name equals testing 501. Select the record where the name equals testing 501, basically. Now that you have that record, I want you to delete it, and it will delete the record. Oh, they got the big wig Kavandra. Okay, so I'm not going to make eye contact. Oh, okay. So this, my friends, is lab 3. The last one, they're kicking us out. What I'm going to do